Angela Rayner is binned by Unite the Union. Explosive revelation rocks Labour Party. Kevin Foster confronts the heated question, will Rachel Reeves be made a scapegoat, as speculation intensifies about Starmer's replacement behind closed doors. Cabinet reshuffle chaos reveals Labour's internal turmoil on GB News. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated.
Former Conservative Minister Kevin Foster, we're delighted to say, joins us in the studio. Very nice to see you, Kevin. Kevin, I think it's totally appropriate for the union to bin Angela Rayner. I just don't understand how I could be a socialist MP standing up for the working person and whatever, and then telling the bin operatives in Birmingham, accept the deal you're being offered, which could mean you losing 8,000 quid a year. Where is the union in that?
Well, it's interesting. You could have a long conversation about how equal pay in Birmingham for city council for many years has not implemented and got to where they are today. But binning off Angela Rayner, who's busy pushing forward things on workers' rights and other things that actually the unions really wanted to see. But actually, I don't think this is going to do her much harm in the long run.
Why? Why?
Well, the reason why, if she wants to replace Keir Starmer, one of the concerns for a lot of particularly Labour MPs and less so Labour activists, particularly Labour MPs, will be how would she appeal to the middle ground at a next general election? She can't be Corbyn in a dress. She has to be something that can appeal a bit more across the range of political opinion. So this may actually help her.
And her stand is sort of standing up for the people, for the citizens of Birmingham, who are living through atrocious times at the moment with rubbish piling up in their streets.
Yeah, it is, although a lot of that's part of the
surely, I mean, you are a union representative being a Labour Party person, and if you're not sticking up for the working people, who the heck, what do you stand for?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it?
Well, it is. What is the Labour Party there for? Is it to basically be delegates from their trade union, or is it to try and stand a bit more in the middle between Birmingham taxpayers who, let's be honest, have been getting hit constantly for increasing council tax and ever worsening services?
But what I'd say about that, Kevin, is that if you put yourself in that position, would you take an £8,000 pay cut in your job? Answer, no. People won't do it, and people have got to be honest and ask themselves, well, it's OK, at least my bins are empty, that's fine, I don't care about anything else, but you've got to care about the greater good.
Well, I think you've got to look at what the situation is there, but I think most people would say, actually, there are quite a lot of advantages to working for your local council that don't come with your average job, the type of pension scheme that you'll have at your local authority. Job security is something that a lot of people do not have at the moment. You're likely to be fairly stable in your employment. And again, actually, there's quite a long story in Birmingham about equal pay and various pay deals over the years that literally have just been weak leadership for many, many years that have left Birmingham literally bankrupt.
To heck with the idea that I'm being binned by Unite. I'd already left. But whatever, a lot of their MPs at the moment are going through this real... they can't figure out where they stand because... wherever they stand at the moment, because they should be socialist MPs, as it were, wherever they stand at the moment, they're going to offend almost one half of their own parliamentary party.
Well, I think the problem they've had is how little preparation was actually done to be a party of government rather than just be a party of opposition, despite all the claims they made before the election. You're now seeing, for example, issues around things like Donald Trump's state visit, where numerous people's tweets are now being quoted. We saw, for example, with the growth figures yesterday, people immediately reminding themselves of only 3 years ago, Rachel Reeves demanding an emergency budget when a similar growth figure was put up. Well, that was clear palpable nonsense 3 years ago, and it'd be palpable nonsense to suggest that again today. So there's that transition from opposition to government has clearly not gone well at all, and many people are now having to engage with the fact that there's some really tough decisions and difficult decisions to be made, and they aren't going to be solved by sort of student union style politics, and that's where some of the, I think, tensions are coming in the Labour Party compared to, let's say, the operation Tony Blair had after 1997, where they'd clearly done a lot to prepare for power. They'd prepared their candidates who would then go on to be MPs for power, and then ran a very, very tight ship where realistically the opposition didn't get a look in for 6-7 years.
So what are your predictions then for a reshuffle?
Well, I think for a reshuffle, first, it's going to be interesting to see Keir Starmer basically look at his cabinet and say, I think it's all your fault, and then try and change it.
So will Rachel Reeves be made a scapegoat, maybe?
I think the problem with taking out a Chancellor is, inevitably, the Prime Minister will follow. because
They do. That historically happens.
Because ultimately, budgets, yes, are presented by the Chancellor. But if a Prime Minister tries to say, oh, I didn't know about that, oh, that was all her, absolute rubbish. Every part of that budget will have been signed off at number 10 before it went out. And he was very keen in the past to say how closely they worked together, and now they seem to be trying to distance a little bit. And just changing faces, changing personnel isn't going to make a difference. No one out there is saying, God, if only there was a new Northern Ireland secretary, or if only they changed over who's in charge at DCMS. That isn't going to change.
They can hug as much as they like, but it's not stopping migrants coming over in those boats, is it?
No, and it's not stopping. I mean, there was that poll during the week, people saying they want Starmer to go now.
Well, I think Keir Starmer is probably on the slide, but it's almost remarkable to think only a year ago where he was then, on the 5th of July, it looked like he had a decade in power. And now, actively in the Labour Party, the people behind the closed doors starting to speculate about who he could be replaced by. That's a huge turnaround in fortunes. It speaks volumes for him as an individual and in terms of weak leadership. And by the way, the opposition also needs to have its own discussions as well.
Well, true.
And who would your eye be on within the Labour Party? I mean, Angela Rayner being one of them, but she's not the only one. And I think the strongest candidates aren't MPs yet. That's where they've got a problem, like someone like Andy Burnham, for instance.
Yeah, the problem for someone like Andy Burnham, who I think many Labour Party members, a bit like, by the way, same with Boris Johnson in terms of the Conservative Party, is not in Parliament. However, if Andy Burnham wanted to get into Parliament, and there was a need to get him into Parliament, perceived by the Labour Party, you can imagine there'd be at least one Labour MP who'd, in a very safe Labour seat, would suddenly develop that pressing family issue we'd never heard, or that sudden ill health diagnosis that none of us realised they were ill, but suddenly means they can no longer carry on as an MP.
We think he's very popular amongst the Parliamentary Labour Party, but there are a lot who don't like him because he's got he was part of the Blair government.
Well, there will be people who'll spite in the past, but then again, in some ways that gives him credibility, and he can talk about his time as Greater Manchester Mayor.